From script to screen, every film is brought to life by visionary creatives and executives, all sharing one mission: to captivate the audience. Hosted by award-winning movie strategist Kevin Goetz, our podcast, Don't Kill the Messenger, offers a filmmaking masterclass through intimate conversations with Hollywood's most influential voices. And now, your host, Kevin Goetz.
This is a business built on vision and the conviction to bring that vision to life in a way that truly knocks it out of the park. My guest today has a way of doing that. He is a true showman. A project came to him a few years back. It was risky, it was unconventional, easy to dismiss. The genre had struggled and the concept didn't scream commercial. But he saw something else. Not just the story, but the execution. The studio wasn't convinced, so he pushed forward and created a proof of concept reel. When it played, everything changed. That man is McQueen. The film was 300, which went on to generate over $450 million worldwide and redefine a genre. A producer and former president of Warner Brothers Worldwide Production, as well as former chairman of Columbia TriStar Pictures, Mark has been behind films like The Matrix Trilogy, The Age of Innocence, My Best Friend's Wedding, Men in Black, Air Force One, and Immortals. Mark, it is so good to have my friend here to kibitz with, to uncover some things I don't know about you, which is going to be hard. Thanks for joining me.
Kevin, it's a pleasure. You are one of the rare people who I met in this town that I can honestly say I've never felt anything other than lean in friendship, no drama, no agenda, nothing but respect and affection for each other. And I feel that that's real. And we've worked together quite a bit over the years.
Almost 40 years.
Yeah. And have always been, to me, in the world of motion picture research and the process of helping us to have the best version of a movie. I am delighted to be here.
So I want to start with Queens, because I'm a Brooklyn boy, and I do want to go back to your roots with Shirley and Arthur.
Arthur.
Mom and Dad, both in the business?
No, my father, talk about a great love story, a New York love story. First of all, I was born in Manhattan. We moved to Queens, and I grew up in Queens. And ironically, my greatest success as a television executive producer, now after 12 years, is Power and the Power Universe, which I created from an idea I had with 50 Cent and a wonderful showrunner, writer, Courtney Kemp. But that's all about Queens, really, in the most authentic way. But my parents, who were just this incredibly beautiful, deep couple, had one moment of let's get married. And the next day, my father left for officer cadet school, Air Force, Roswell, New Mexico, and went off to fly as the second lieutenant, 69 missions. They were shot down over France. He became one of the two survivors, broke every bone in his body, saved by a German surgeon who refused to turn him over to the Nazis. He led an escape. He was MIA and POW for 2 years. In those days, there were no cell phones. The expectation you would get a ring at your door or knock that your man was gone. My father was a very athletic, very determined human, and he survived it all and got back. And
they tell your mother he was missing in action?
They did, yes. He was MIA. His mother gave up on him, as a matter of fact.
Oh, my God. And then one day...
Yeah, he came back. And he came
back...
Wait
a minute, this is incredible. So why haven't you made this story?
Well, this is what my brother and I are working on. My father came home in the hospital in 1946, 47, got out, and my mother's brother, her late brother, Sanford, had formed a motion picture distribution organization in New York City. And my father and he connected. And in 1949, they made a short subject on Van Gogh, and my dad won the Oscar. So this is what started the entire lineage.
Well, you came out of the womb. I'm just going to say this. With
poetry, man.
I was just going to say, you were a movie man out of the gate. Like, there are many guests I have sitting on that couch who they learned how to grow into it. You and I, very similar, share this. I wanted to do nothing else.
Right. I've tried for all these years how to grow out of it.
But you don't mean that.
I don't really mean that
at all.
Don't. But
is Neil as committed as you are?
Yes. And what I was going to say to you is that my mother was a poet and a published poet. And her most extraordinary book that she won awards for was called City Kids Don't Chew Tall Grass. And it was about living in New York City and waiting, is he going to make it? Very emotional, very powerful. But they were always into the arts. So what happened was, father won the Oscar. And in the 1950s, if you can visualize, as we all can, the Mad Men series, that was my father. He opened up a marketing and public relations firm on 424 Madison Avenue above the Chock-full of Nuts. My father first became, through a lot of fantastic visual motion picture-like connections, which I'll tell you at least one, became a vice president at MGM. But before he became vice president, his job was to do road shows and travel around with Leo the Lion. Because remember, there was no AI and there was nothing other than doing these things.
This is when he worked at MGM.
Right. So he would take Leo the Lion around. He worked his way up. Eventually, he became a very significant executive vice president of Columbia Pictures, which was on Fifth Avenue. I started acting at a really young age. By sixth grade, and I have wonderful pictures, I played Freddie Eynsford Hill in My Fair Lady, and then I played Prince Chili Longhorn in The King and I. So I was that guy, and I was going to be an actor.
Often walked down the street before.
That was me, man. I was seducing all those little girls. I was a little guy. And it was a beautiful thing. But even then, the Drama Society in sixth grade, I knew I wanted to come to Hollywood. And my
Hollywood,
father,
not Broadway.
No, Hollywood. And I don't really have regrets. But if I had one, it would be that I was a really good actor, and no less than Dustin Hoffman told me so. By the time we worked together in 1973 on Papillon, Dustin and I spent a lot of time together, and McQueen, and he said, you'd be a wonderful actor. And I kind of sometimes regret that I didn't pursue that side. My other regret is that I have never directed something, because often I find myself directing the director anyway.
Now, I want to go back to something here. So you see a movie that defines, I want to be in the movies? Is there a particular seminal picture as a young Mark that you're like, I want to do that? Something had to inform you.
My father built this incredible creative advertising marketing firm with the late, great Bill Blowitz, who got hit by a cab and killed as they were coming home from dinner in New York City. Story unto itself. My father, starting in the 1960s, represented more legendary actors, producers, directors: Hitchcock, Kazan, David Lean, Sam Spiegel, Doris Day, Leslie Caron, Dr. King. He did all the personal publicity, but he also put together the March on Washington with Dr. King, Dr. Abernathy. Sidney Poitier was his client, as was Harry Belafonte. What parents? And my mother, they were very bonded.
Who were you closer to?
You know, I felt like I won the lottery. There was a piece of both.
Did you like your childhood?
I loved my childhood. And my brother, who was a year older, we were just like these badass kids who shared a room in the house, and we both were into sports and girls, and we were into trouble. And what happened is, teenagers, skipping around a bit, my brother, first he wanted to go to West Point, then he wanted to be in politics, so he went to American University in D.C. I decided I was going to run something in Hollywood, so I went to UCLA. That was my ticket to get to California. But I made really crazy decisions. In the expression "youth will be served," I was definitely served. Because
wait a minute, what was the movie you said that's easy?
Easy. Number one, Lawrence of Arabia, because my father represented David Lean and Sam Spiegel. So my father went, and I still have all the stuff from the location when he would come home.
Was that in Morocco?
In Morocco. And my father was a crazy, handsome guy, and they would fly. In those days, when you'd fly places like that, he would always say, yeah, I was in first class, and they served monkey brains and stuff on these flights.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, they did, man. It was like a whole Pan Am.
Did he ever bring you?
Never brought me there. But he brought the dust back, the fairy dust.
You go to UCLA.
Right.
You go to UCLA.
Right.
You graduated as
magna cum laude in history.
Why'd you choose history?
Well, there were only two things I was interested in, filmmaking and history. And I was at UCLA in the subversive days of filmmaking. Everyone wanted to overthrow everything. Still do, especially now. But I was more academic. I studied history and mythology, which then came back around with 300 and Immortals. But I knew by that time that I wanted to have power in Hollywood. I wanted to run a company and have whatever vision I had. I felt I wanted to be in a position to actualize.
So you knew that early on.
I knew that.
So interesting.
Here's how early on I knew it. By the way, I was at UCLA when it was Kent State, so I would get A's in everything because I would go on strike with the right professors.
Always working the angle.
I always worked it, man. It was a great
time.
What
I like to say, and we share this as well, I always say, I'm a shark, always looking for my next meal.
Always looking
But sharks are wonderful creatures.
Yes.
People think, oh, you're a shark.
No.
Why did you call yourself that? No, there's a negative connotation. It's the best of the
I don't have
hierarchy,
that much,
isn't it?
I try to come from, as you know me, a very positive place of everything is possible. Yes. But by the time I was...
And curious.
So my father opened some doors for me, but he always believed then you have to take it from there. So my online training was that at UCLA in the summers, I would work in the mailroom at Warner Brothers. So I drove a big bike, like Pee-wee's bike, around, and I delivered the mail.
Was Warner Brothers the lot that it is today?
Yes.
So you're riding around a studio lot where you would one day be head of worldwide production.
Yeah. But my brother by that time, his best friend was a gentleman who became a legendary filmmaker, Frank Marshall, who you know well. So they were best friends, and they lived on Outpost Drive in the house of Peter Bogdanovich and Polly Platt. And Peter Bogdanovich at the time was the great American young director, because Peter was making Paper Moon and The Last Picture Show. And Peter was becoming legend, and Polly was sort of the brains behind the outfit, and Polly was the writer. And it was a wonderful, crazy time. So I would go over the hill, then I would come back, and I lived right down the hill from them, off of Outpost in Hollywood, and I would deliver the mail of Peter and Sidney Pollack and all the legends. They all had their offices there, but all of these young filmmakers, Francis, everyone was emerging, and I would deliver their mail, and I would always take an extra second to smell the circus.
Oh, smell the circus. I love that term.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? And you do know what it is, Kevin. It's when you're a kid and you go to the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and you smell the circus and the cotton candy and the popcorn. It was heavenly. For me, the first time I ever walked into a movie studio, and it stayed that way forever, when I get to a soundstage, it's smelling the circus.
And I believe him, listeners, because I've been around Mark. I could have opened with so many comments about you. I chose to open up with this notion of showman because, like the best of them,
right?
I think of Mike Todd. I think of Cecil B. DeMille. Had that sense of theatricality, and I think you have it in spades. If I were casting the quintessential studio executive, it would be like Bob Evans. But I also have always told you this, it would be Mark Canton.
Thank you.
At a certain point, as a producer, just what you imagine Hollywood to be, it would have been Joel Silver.
Right.
As a director, it would have been Steven Spielberg. And you, my friend, have this presence when you walk in a room of owning the room.
Right.
Well, you don't get that from not smelling the circus.
You got to smell the circus. And let me tell you something. Early on, I knew it was a blessing, a gift. I always understood that this was better than most. I never was callous about it. I never was cynical about it. And I ain't now.
I love that, by the way, because you don't take it for granted because you live in gratitude.
Right.
I want to ask you something about your first big job. Like,
Right.
What did you get that you said, oh, I'm on my way?
My father introduced me to Franklin Schaffner, who had made Patton and won the Oscar and was one tough, serious, cigar-smoking guy.
He's a John Ford.
He's a John Ford. He was amazing. And I went to meet him, and I wanted to be his assistant on this film called Papillon, which, by the way, as a producer now, it gave me a lot of skills because I learned a lot from Ted Richmond and all these guys who didn't know how to get their financing together. But right then I realized this is crazy business, man, because I thought, hey, it's pretty easy. You put on a suit, you look good, you're with a great girl. It's all good. You know,
Part of it.
Part of it. Yeah, how long?
Playing the game.
Playing the game and inventing the game. But when I met Frank, I don't remember if I still had an earring, had long hair, I had my Jufro going on. And all I know is he looked at me, I looked at him, and I said, Mr. Schaffner, I am the right person at the right time, and I would like to come to Jamaica and learn everything I can from you. You're elite, you're great. I'll cut my hair. I'll do anything you want, which he actually smiled about that. So there we were. I'm going to answer your question. I have a few places I can answer it specifically. In Jamaica, in Falmouth, hot as hell. And there I am with the biggest movie star in the world, Steve McQueen. And now he's in this romance with Ally McGraw, and she's there walking around the set in a little bikini with a gold chain around it. I go like, this is like so great. And I'm living with Ed Meyerson, who was the son of the head of Lowe's Corporation.
Oh, this reminds me of the story with Bob Evans.
Right.
Because they were having an affair.
That was so
right?
Crazy. Dude.
Was that on that picture, huh?
Yes. And Steve was the biggest star in the world, and Steve's assistant's name was Jimmy Jimenez. And Steve only wore stone-dyed jeans, which in those days no one knew what they were, but he had like 1,100 pairs. And Steve would come out because he was the real deal, okay? The Brad Pitts and everyone else, they followed suit, but they weren't Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen every morning would be working out his karate and that kickback and all. I lived in between the house of Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. And they were as different as could be and each as great as could be.
Did they get along?
Okay. Took a lot. But I just wanted to learn a lot. So what I would do is I would watch Steve's process, and then I would watch Dustin's process. What was Dustin's process? The character was aging. The makeup on his hands, he would do himself. Sit there for like hours, like doing the makeup, while Steve was just kicking the shit out of the thing and hanging out with Ally, drinking beer. And I realized I love this. So the big moment was, it's like a Friday. Franklin Schaffner has now not talked to me for months because I'm not at the level since I had met him. Now it's the end of the day Friday, and he just goes like he's smoking a big fucking cigar, and he goes like this. Come over, man. I go over, and he just looks me right in the eyes, and he's blowing the smoke in my eyes. And he goes, so what do you think? And I go on what feels like a 20-minute rant, like giving my opinion about everything, like you do. And he's looking me right in the face. He blows the smoke out, and he says, what? Because clearly he was already on to the next thing. And I realized right there, you're either going to projectile vomit, you're going to faint, or you're going to remember that moment and use that moment for all the things that you want to build in your own career.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, when we come back, we're going to talk to Mark about his big break and the movies that followed and what he's doing now. We'll be back in a moment. Listeners, the Motion Picture and Television Fund is a nonprofit charitable organization that supports working and retired members of the entertainment community. This wonderfully run organization offers assistance for living and aging with dignity and purpose in the areas of health and social services, including temporary financial assistance, case management, and residential living, and has been a crucial lifeline to thousands during and beyond critical times that our industry continues to experience. To learn more, visit mptf.com. Please join me in helping others in our industry during times of need. There are so many ways to offer support and get involved. Thank you. We're back with my dear friend, Mark Canton. Mark, you get to become the head of Warner Brothers very quickly. What is that trajectory like to get you to that place?
I went from working on, as I said, Papillon, getting tremendous practical experience, working on the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 in the subways of New York with Joe Sargent and Robert Shaw. Incredible. And ending up in Hollywood, one more of those stories that make us who we are. I go in to United Artists for a meeting. I had one fancy sport jacket from Bonwood Teller. I put it on. I go in to see Dan Rissner, who is the head of production for United Artists at the time. I sit down with him. I'm thinking this is all exactly what has to be in my career. He says to me, before I can say a word, "Your father is a fantastic man. I'm sure you're a great guy. The long and short of it is I don't have anything for you." So I had no words to say, because other than to get up and leave.
General interview.
By the way, that came full cycle many years later when older Danton Rissner needed studio head Mark Canton for his career. However, long before that ever crossed my mind, I went to work for Dick Shepard and Ray Wagner at MGM, where I got a job where Sherry Lansing was there. She was on the next floor. And my big break was that I worked for Mike Medavoy at Orion. Mike Medavoy hired me. I knew Eric Pleskow, his boss, and Arthur Krim and Bob Benjamin, because Eric Pleskow was the next door neighbor to my parents, who now had a house in West Hampton. This was UA, before Orion. One of the things that Arthur Krim always said was the most important assets we have in this business are yourself and your partner. When you put your coat and hat on and you go home, you take the studio with you. You're a built-in asset, which I always thought was quite simple and brilliant. So Mike Medavoy hired me, paid me $117.80 a week, which I didn't really care. I was into earn a little, learn a lot. And we went to work at UA, and we were making some really interesting, good movies.
Come on, give me a few.
Well, I
Rocky.
mean, Rocky was the moment we were all in that screening. We stood up on the chairs. Rocky was the highlight of that time. We were on the lot, still smelled like the circus. And I met, during the course of this, Barbra Streisand wanted to do a remake of The Women, and that was at MGM. So I went from UA to MGM by that point, and Dick Shepard was a very stern guy. Ray Wagner I liked a great deal. So Barbara came in for meetings on The Women, and she took a liking to me. She liked my notes. She liked what I had to say. She liked my approach.
She liked your New Yorkness.
Right. And she introduced me to John Peters, and I quickly became tight with John, and
Was he still a hair
He was still
stylist?
a hit now. Now he was starting to produce movies, and he was going to do this movie with Robbie Benson, actually, and a monkey. I can't remember the name. But
What was he like then, John?
He was very, very not polished, but he was very wildly handsome and ambitious.
Talented?
Talented. He was talented.
Instincts.
To this day.
Got it.
Big ones. That's how we ended up with Barbara. It's a pretty good instinct. So there came a time in this process where I would start going out to Ramirez Canyon in Malibu, under the tunnel, where Barbara had her 2 houses, eventually 7 houses, her deco house, her cottage, every house that you could ever want was on that property. And the best of the best. And her other house in Carrollwood Drive, there was so much Tiffany. Everything was perfect. And, of course, made me feel very ambitious, because
I want that too.
We all want that. And we'd go out, and there was the younger versions, always on Saturdays, these parties of David Geffen and Barry Diller and Sandy Gallin and Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, just all the people.
And I'm going to be part of that.
I was already a part of it, but I certainly wasn't going to get booted out. You know what I mean? So then Barbara and John decided they needed me in their company. So what they did was I went to the ranch and Barbara made me, with her people, a great meal. I'll never forget it, with like hot peach pie and whatever. She's Barbara Streisand, man. And they offered me like $100,000, which was a lot of money, to run Barbara, to join forces. She was working with Ryan O'Neal on the main event. That's when this period of time was. And I now had made the turn into going from being in the office to being more on the set, which I always liked, going back to Papillon. And Barbara and John were really unbelievably complimentary and respectful.
And how was that relationship? For a long time it lasted, right?
It lasted a long time.
Are you not still friends with them?
I am.
But that's who you are.
Yeah.
Your persona, like, it's very rare that you don't continue relationships for years and years.
Right.
You have very deep relationships.
That's driven my entire professional life, is that I have active friendships and relationships that are without agenda again.
How do you talk to a Barbara? How do you talk to her? Because I imagine someone of her stature is just surrounded by sycophants.
Right.
And she needs people who are going to be straight with her.
I was always straight with her, and I always tried to tell her as succinctly as possible.
Did you ever get into
the
it?
Truth. Got into it sometimes, but
healthy civic discourse.
Healthy, and also I learned, because remember, there were no cell phones in those days, so I learned very early in my career how to get off the phone fast, because she might still be talking when I hung up. She's Barbara.
Torturing the logic of whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Genius. So I had a really great period of time with meeting all of this extraordinary talent from all walks of life.
And it was the creme de la creme at that time of Hollywood.
And all the politicians.
Oh, everyone.
Everybody, because Barbara was so involved with politics. And however it happened along the way, I had a connection with, I mean, I know how it happened, but, you know, I was a dog with a bone. So there was young Mike Ovitz, young Ron Meyer. It was all, I can't give you the years for everything, but all I know is
I'm getting the whole thing.
It all got together to the point.
You all came up together.
Where we came up together, and now I wanted to get serious. So what happened was, there was a job at Warner Brothers, and this was now 1979. Well, first of all, Barbara came to my 30th birthday party as a surprise and sang happy birthday. So just try to imagine, I turned 30 and there's Barbara Streisand singing happy birthday. And I'm going like,
Mark,
to myself, this is like...
You're not going to believe this. This is an honest to God. I spent my 30th birthday with Barbara Streisand. But not in the same way. I was working on a movie that she was directing. I'm working as an actor doing voice work for her. And I was going to meet my legend.
Right.
And she could not have been more spectacular.
She is spectacular.
That's so serendipitous, because we both had on this program two really crazy, different parts of the story, but the same kind of thing.
Crazy. So what happened was,
Lord.
I turned 30, and John Peters said, you should just run the whole town, man. Like, you're unstoppable. And Mike Ovitz had amassed a huge amount of power fast.
People don't remember.
They don't remember.
I'm going to actually ask Mike to come on the show.
He's certainly never stopped amassing a fortune either. He's so brilliant. So there was a job opening at Warner Brothers. And remember, in those
EVP job.
Right. Remember, in those days, titles didn't matter. Right. Remember, the heads of production, like Mike Medavoy, were called EVP. Now you wouldn't go in the office if you're not called a chairman. Right.
And Bob and Terry were there, correct?
Here's what happened. So there was a job. And by then, Jake Bloom was in my life as a dear friend and as a mentor and as my attorney. I met Jake Bloom and Skip Rittenham, the two legends who both passed away 2 years ago. At the same day I met them, and I ended up going with Jake. I like to laugh sometimes that if I had gone with Skip, I'd be a lot wealthier, but with Jake, I had such a great time. So I hear Craig Baumgarten is getting the job from Jake Bloom, and it's a done deal. And I go, this can't be a done deal. I call Mike Goetz. I say, you got to get me in to get this job, man. So he calls up Ted Ashley, who was still there, and John Calley, and young Terry Semel. And the next thing I know, I spend the night with Hal Ashby, who I had known.
One of the great directors of the
all time. I spent the night in Malibu with Hal Ashby and these beautiful women. And we're like up the whole night. I'm so confident. I go, I get dressed, I go in, I walk into the old Jack Warner office.
Wait, they called you and told you did get it?
They called me to interview me. After I had an all-nighter with Hal Ashby.
So Craig had already told he was getting the job.
He was told he was getting the job.
He must hate your guts.
I think it is, I don't think he would admit it. It was that.
He's the best, Craig.
Right. Yeah, so this is what happened. I go in, all these guys come out of one door or another, Ted Ashley, Terry Semel, John Calley, and Mark Rosenberg, who was then the head of production, who was married at the time to Paula Weinstein. And the first thing I say, it's just so lame, man. I sit down, no fucking idea what the head of production of Warner Brothers, and I say, Warner Brothers is like the Yankees, and I am the biggest Yankee fan in the world, and they don't lose, and I don't lose. This is what I say.
That's some hubris.
Right. They look at me like, who the fuck is this guy?
Oh, I'd want a piece of that.
Thank you. We get into this conversation, and people don't understand what it was like to be the most powerful person in this industry for 10 years.
Yeah, Mike Goetz.
Mike Goetz. The next day he calls me up. He goes, you got the job. They loved you. I go, great. I got the job. I say goodbye to John.
Did he negotiate for you?
Peter?
Or did Jake Bloom?
No, he negotiated with Jake. Years later, they had a big fight with each other in front of me. But that, I have, like you, all the stories. Because we're present in our own demise. Remember this. So I get the job at the place that I once delivered mail. A very emotional family moment for my parents, who now lived in LA as well. And it was, I think, around then, my brother produced the Back to the Future movies. So now my parents, this Jewish family from a guy that survived being shot down, we got birthed, and my brother's making Back to the Future, and I'm now running Warner Brothers.
Jesus.
So it's pretty good.
Hold on. I got to just take a second to process that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You walk on the Warner Brothers lot. Were you in Jack's office?
No, I was down the hall, but I had a great office.
I only say that because I asked Ann Sarnoff, who was a guest a little bit ago. I said, Ann, what was it like walking onto that lot for the first time?
Right.
And everybody has the same reaction when asked that question.
Yeah.
Magic.
And then remember, Steve Ross was there, and this guy couldn't take good enough care of his executives. We had the planes, we had the gifts. When Wendy and I went and got married.
Wendy Feinerman
and I went and got married in 1985. He sent us around the world, and everywhere we went, there were bathrobes with our initials on the Warner's plane in Europe.
Those were the days.
I was the last.
Now you got to show them your expense account and say, I need permission. I went over the $1,000 for the dinner.
And you're not going to get the permission. So I went to Warner Brothers, and 3 months later, in 1980, in walks this Irish guy, Bob Daly, with his big buckle shoes, and Terry Semel's there, and I'm doing good stuff because right away, for $5,000 at the old El Padrino Room at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, I met with John Patak and young John Hughes, and for $5,000, I optioned these articles called Vacation, Christmas Vacation, and all the vacation.
You identified John Hughes. You got him.
Yeah. He had his Paramount relationship with Ned Tannen, and he had his relationship with me, but we did 5 movies. And then I found the director, Harold Ramis, because remember, this went back to John Peterson. When we were together, we were on the Warner lot, so John thought I should run, and we made Caddyshack. That was my ticket, because it was a 200-page script that Harold Ramis and Doug Kenny wrote after Animal House, and John did not know what he was doing, and he gave me the fucking script, and he goes, hey, genius, go fix this fucking script because it's 200 pages. And Orion and Mike Nichols, they're not going to make it. So I went with Harold Ramis. We cut the script down to 120 pages. We made Caddyshack. I cast with them Chevy and Billy and all the guys. And
Was it tough to cast?
it was easy to cast because we all knew each other from Second City or from Saturday Night Live. I was also always on the set of Saturday Night Live.
So you knew where to hang.
Yeah, man.
You knew that you had to get out there.
I was at the first Saturday Night Live where they were breaking big pens in the back and snorting blow in the back before the show started, man.
That was, you know what they say, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. You know,
I was always
Hamilton.
in the right room. I was in the right room so often, I'm at the point where I don't really care about it anymore, but I'm still in the right room. An example would be yesterday. Yesterday, where Peter Guber, who I now...
Oh, yeah, now let's talk about that, because you and Peter have now formed back together.
We've formed that we're now partners
in a movie
Mandalay
concern,
Pictures. Right? What Peter had Mandalay, I had Canton Entertainment and Atmosphere. After years of this friendship and personal friendship with our wives, with our kids, Peter and I formed this new version, Mandalay 2.0, where we are co-managing directors and partners of all the movies and stuff. And what we're going to build, we're working on. But one of the ways we work on it is an example of still being in the right room. So Peter Guber now owns the Dodgers. He's one of the three owners. The Golden State Warriors, he and his partner Joe. The LA Football Club and the stadium. The Valkyrie, which is the Golden State women's team in the WNBA. They built the Chase Center. And then he owns the most successful team in gaming's competitive sports called Team Liquid. So yesterday, Peter and I talk about being in the right room. He goes, "You want to have lunch?" I go, "Great, let's go." And he goes, "You know what? The Dodgers are playing, they never play a day game, but they have to travel tonight. It's called like whatever kind of game." We hop in the car. He drives. We're in Hancock Park. 18 minutes later, we're at Dodger Stadium. He owns the team. Drives in as always. The boss is here. The boss is here. Parks. You would virtually think you parked on first base. We go. We're sitting in the owner's seat.
Where's the owner's seat?
The owner's seats are right next to the Dodger dugout. The Dodger manager, Dave Roberts, goes like this to Peter. Peter and I sit for 3 innings. We watch Ohtani hit twice. We get back in the car. The way back, we solve the movies we want to make. 17 minutes, we're back in the office. So I guess I'm still in the right place.
I got to tell you, I'm 3 seats behind home plate.
It's great.
I was there the other day when the Mets lost.
Right.
But all-you-can-eat buffet.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Put a Jew with a buffet. I mean, you know, it's a wonderful
the stadium
thing.
club, the dugout club.
And so I'm thinking, how could anyone have better seats than this? But
we do. Now, just by being with Peter, he's saying to me, "What should I do about this sports thing and stuff?" So I'm having the greatest time because I love sports. By the way, going back to Warner Brothers, not only did I succeed at Warner Brothers in the 1980s, but they had at that time, I want to say it was the 70th anniversary. You might have been there. I don't know. And Steve Roth threw this humongous party on the lot for everyone in the history of the world who's ever been in Hollywood. But only 2 people, your friend Rob Friedman, who was then the head of marketing, and your friend Mark Canton, who was the head of worldwide motion picture production, were lifted up in a crane, and we signed the water tower at Warner Brothers. So one day, when David Ellison and everyone now takes over, they're going to have to either erase our name or do whatever.
Is that a lot of people have signed that over the years?
Not a lot of people. I had this idea. I said, "Robbie, let's sign the water tower, man. We're not going to be here forever." It was beautiful. So
it's genius. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When did you get the call to come to Columbia?
We had this magnificent run at Warner Brothers. Deep friendships. I brought in what I believe to be one of the things I'm most proud of. The thing I am most proud of in the business. Before, it was in vogue, in fashion, the right thing to do, or any other version. I had the most incredible women work with me and for me ever when I was at Warner's. Remember, I had the greatest...
like Lucy Fisher?
Lucy Fisher, Alan Stewart, incredible team. My whole theory was you get the best people, you help them to be the best version of themselves, and you win. That's it.
Genius.
Simple. At Warner Brothers, it was the greatest company ever, right? You know, you and I both know it takes, Steven Spielberg don't make a movie alone. Marty don't make a movie alone. You got to have all the players in all the right positions.
Sure, they'd be the first to say it.
As executives, we have both witnessed companies that destroy themselves from within because there's so much competition. The me, everyone with their own agendas, everyone wants to be you, like whatever. But at Warner Brothers, Bob and Terry weren't having that. So our Tuesday lunches were legend because we would sit and have lunch and throw out the wildest fucking ideas in the world. Like Bob Daly says to me, I really like that guy Kirk Russell to be
Kirk Russell
to do Lethal Weapon, which I bought in my bathroom.
That I remember you telling me.
I did. I bought it in the bathroom because there was a phone in the bathroom. I went in the bathroom. I didn't want anyone to hear me. And I worked out the deal to get the script Lethal Weapon. And I put Dick on it. And Joel was like begging me. And we hired Mel. Well, Mel had done Mad Max at Warner's. So when I got there, that was just happening. And we became very close friends. And
he's a great guy, man.
Great guy, man.
That put him on the map, though, as a giant international star.
So we did Lethal Weapon. But in other words, those Tuesday meetings, we would cast it. So I go, no, Mel Gibson. Oh, Mel Gibson. And then Danny Glover, because remember in those days, everybody wasn't always paired. But I've succeeded often by putting two disparate spirits together.
Fabulous.
This is what I'm into.
You did it on Men in Black.
I did it with Bad Boys and Men in Black. Anyway, I get the call to go to Columbia. I've had this unbelievable run at Warner Brothers. Warner's is still my heart to this day. Why did I go? I went because...
Who called you?
Peter Guber and John Peters called me, and they seduced me. They threw everything at me. And I didn't want to leave, but Terry and Bob, I was number 3, and Barry Meyer was the head of business who eventually became the guy. This is all before Alan Horn. By this time, I was fairly savvy in the business of the business. I wanted to guarantee that if Bob or Terry left, I would get that opportunity.
They wouldn't give it to you.
They wouldn't give it to me, and I knew my only way out of my contract was to really have Terry feel uncomfortable. We started to knock heads because Bob didn't want to let go of me at all. And I got out without going into all the detail with the help of Jake.
With the help of Mike Ovid.
Right. And made a great deal to become the chairman of Columbia Pictures, which then eventually, quickly, I formed the Columbia TriStar Motion Picture Companies. They were two separate companies, and I became the chairman of both. And
didn't you revitalize the TriStar label?
First thing I did. And the Columbia label. We changed the whole thing. We made it look like a Ned Benning now. With the lady with the torch. And David Putnam gave me, which I still have, of course, his torch, because he had one made, and one side said David Putnam, and then he had my plaque put on the other side. I was thrilled. I mean, here I am, this kid from Queens, and I'm the chairman of Columbia Pictures, where my father worked. And I joined there, and in short order, John was thrown out, which was very heavy for me, because John was
a dear friend,
but also he was my fighter to get me there in the first place. That's the truth. He insisted, because when I first was going to go there, Frank Price was still at Columbia, and Mike Medavoy was at TriStar. And they were like in shock. Mark Canton is going to take over for and so what Peter tried to do was convince me at the last minute that I should spend a year at TriStar. Mike would leave. I would spend the year at TriStar. And then Frank was going to leave because he had a year to go in his contract. And I refused, because I go, I'm not leaving Warner Brothers to run a company called TriStar. It was like when Lorimar came to Warner Brothers. You got to know if it's a Chevy or a Cadillac. I'm not doing it.
And they said, we get it.
They said, we get it. So there was a lot of infighting between John and Peter. It worked out. It was great. My deal was amazing that Jake made. I could pretty much call the shots, because they couldn't really make this committee anything without me wanting to do it. And if they didn't do what I wanted to do, they were going to spend a fucking shitload of overhead, because it was going to be a stalemate. And you can't have a stalemate when your job is to justify the overhead by actually making the slate of movies.
Fair play.
So the first thing that happened is that Peter and I went to New York to meet the Japanese at the Philip Johnson building, which was then the Sony building. And Tommy Mottola and Donnie Einer and all the guys from the record company were there. And we had a dinner at a place called the Quilted Giraffe. It was a hot restaurant for the moment. And the Japanese guys at dinner, I'm sitting like as far as from Peter as you are, and we're looking at each other. And the Japanese guys, because they had made Hook, which was no great movie, but they had done very well. And the guy looks at me and he goes, Canton, son, you make only the hits. And Peter crawls under the table and kicks me like, don't answer this fucking guy. Whatever you do, don't answer. On the way back to the St. Regis down the block, Peter puts his arm around me and he goes, what were you going to say? I said, I was going to say, Idel-san, if I could only make the hits, what the fuck do I need you for? So we come back. Now I'm in my offices. They build out the offices. Peter's in the one, I'm in the other. We're like gigantic conference, like fantastic. I hired Lucy again 3 days a week. The greatest executives, Stephanie Elaine. I mean, Barry Josephson was my man. I made him president of production. Michael Nathanson was there when I got there, and he couldn't wait and sent me the presidential gavel.
So you put a great team together.
I had the most amazing. Lisa Henson became the first woman president, and that was genius, and she was genius.
Was Amy with you then?
Amy worked at the end. And
so did Ange Giannetti,
yes,
right?
Ange was like the assistant.
Exactly. And I was doing every one of your movies.
You did every movie. And you always told me, you're going to fail if you don't follow me. And I went, okay, I'm going to follow you.
Oh, come on, Mark. That's very sweet, but not true.
So basically, the first movie I greenlit was Age of Innocence. I remember them coming into me and they go like, Mark,
we got to test this thing, Mark.
Right. And you came here to make Batman and Superman and Spider-Man. And I said to them,
and you're making Age of Innocence.
Guys, it's Marty Scorsese. Okay. I did Goodfellas at Warner Brothers in the 80s. Like, I don't give a shit. There's Marty Scorsese. And Jay Maloney, the late Jay Maloney, gave it to me, the script.
Okay. So now there's a test screening scheduled. Right. He makes the movie.
Right. And
where do you go, Mark?
To New Jersey to a bowling alley.
What the fuck did we...
What did we do, man?
Why did we go
John
there?
Dolgen.
But there was a reason why. I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either. But
oh, my God. But you are in a bowl.
It was a mistake. It was the wrong place.
It was Fort Lee or something,
They brought us to the wrong place.
And it was a bowling alley is the anchor place in this mall. And Mark is like
flipping out. The most sophisticated movie in the history of Hollywood.
Yeah. And Mark is flipping out, and Marty's flipping out.
Marty flipped out and took me in the room with Jay Cox. And then I said to Jay Cox, listen, I know what we need to do, but the first thing we need to do is get out of here, okay? Because this is not like we're in the wrong place. And Marty didn't do previews. And to do this, because when
Mark-Canton, you had to say, you got to do this, Marty. There's a lot on the line here.
So I had it happen twice because Luc Besson came and we did Fifth Element in The Professional. And The Professional, we had a screening. And at the end of the screening, Luc Besson, who's now one of my dearest friends, they did not like the movie, and they did not like the end. You were there.
With little Natalie Portman.
Right. And Jean Reno, which came one of the 5 greatest movies I've ever been involved with.
I love that movie.
And Luke said, blah, blah, blah. I'm Luke Besson. I said, listen, you have 2 choices. You can either make the fucking changes, or I'm going to release it in 2 screens. He made every change. The movie is...
It was huge. It went up hugely.
Huge and historic. It's... All I ever say
so
is
you didn't
Leon
listen to me. You listened to yourself.
Right.
Good for you.
Of course.
Tell me about the bowling alley. Didn't that end up scoring really well?
It scored well, but John Dolgen, you remember Dolgen came with us.
My bud.
Now, John Dolgen was my partner.
Why you did a partner?
He was my partner. He was the head of business. He had a stroke and died.
One of the brightest guys I've ever met in our business.
In history, ever. But he would shut his blinds at 9 a.m, smoke his cigarettes, and because his whole mantra was, his father was like a labor union organizer, and his whole context was, we're not here to have fun. We're here to like, whatever. So,
and
he was
just
a pain
had
in
to
the
feed
ass.
him the truth.
He stood in my way.
Never tried to handle
Then
him.
we went on and we broke, within no time, every record in the history of domestic cinema. We had the biggest year in history, from Jerry Maguire My Best Friend's Wedding, Bad Boys, Air Force One. All of these movies happened, but we made, over the course of time, we kept breaking every record, and then I got skewered for making Cable Guy.
And you got skewered in large measure because, first of all, I want to say one thing before we go to Cable Guy. I just want to make a point that even though we were in a bowling alley in bumfuck Jersey, and I'm a Jersey boy, so I could say that, the audience still really responded to the picture.
No question.
But it was a lesson also. There are no really wrong audiences. So Cable Guy, you got shit a lot because you ended up paying more than
$17 million
I thought it was
Jim Carrey.
20.
$17 million to Jim Carrey.
But I'm saying the industry was up your ass because you raised the ante for every other movie star.
I did. Look, first of all, Bob and Terry, at that point, I was now the competitor. I was the enemy. So I always believed that came from there because the truth is, what do you think they were already guaranteeing Clint Eastwood or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, $20 million? You think that those
It was just about to happen. You got the press.
This was the new generation.
Yeah. It was about to happen, and you got the press.
I would have done it again. Today, I would do it. I thought Jim Carrey was fantastic. And
Did the movie ever make money?
Made $36 million. To this day, that's what Sony made from this movie. And it spawned onto the world. Don't forget, Ben Stiller directed the movie. The movie was written by Judd Apatow. Let's remember this. It was the first breakout movie for Jack Black, Owen Wilson. The list goes on and on and on. And the only reason the movie wasn't a huge hit is because the ending was dark, because Jim wanted to be impaled on the thing. But the thing about it is,
you would have fought to have a changed ending.
I would have changed
where you are today.
I would have changed.
I know that.
But remember, change is not often only one person. I went through it with Mike Nichols on Wolf with Jack Nicholson, where we had Michelle Pfeiffer and Jack, and that movie is a perfect movie till the last 5 minutes. I went to Mike Nichols. This is sort of a good encapsulation of being late today. I make a meeting with Mike Nichols because I wanted to change the ending. I give him $2 million to change the ending of the movie. Oh. He had final cut. He's Mike Nichols. I ain't Mike Nichols. His wife, I get Diane Sawyer to tell him to change the ending. He don't change the ending. I come to the meeting 2 hours late. He makes me a pillow. He goes back to Nantucket and makes me a pillow that says, Mark is on the way. I have it on a chair at home. I send him a pillow that says, Mike will fix the ending. Okay? This is the truth.
Mark never showed up on time.
Right.
And Mike never fixed the ending.
Didn't fix it. We go to the White House. We show the movie to Clinton. We spend the night at the White House. Some people went and smoked a joint in one of the outside areas I can't say, but I was with Jack and Diane and blah, blah, blah. And the Clintons. But that was another. Listen, there are a lot of decisions that constantly have to be made. There are solutions that constantly have to be lived with.
Well, as you said, Mark, you have no regrets, really.
No regrets. I mean, what you do as well. You're coming up with solutions that are best serve the facts. You know, long before people were worried about algorithms, it's an artistic endeavor. And the one thing for sure that stood me well the test of time, from day one, loving movies like Kevin Goetz loves movies, I have always thought we all work for the audience. So we got to figure out.
That's why you say final cut. I love what Tom Hoffman says. Who gets final cut? The audience.
The audience.
Hey, let me ask you one final question. Yeah. What makes people stay for the long haul in this business in a line or two?
I think we're witnessing it right now with Michael Jackson or Mario. 15 years ago, the music business was dead. No one was going to live performance. There was no Avatar shows, sphere. Now you have to have people feel emotionally connected to the story, but also you have to have in the experience, people feel like it's a live performance. So when you go to Michael Jackson, you feel that you're actually going to a concert and you can get up and dance like we did when we made Purple Rain. Remember, I made Purple Rain and Pee-wee. I'm jamming that into this conversation because that's how I felt about those. When everyone went, this kid is crazy.
Cultural zeitgeist.
So you need to now.
Right?
Yes. You need with Prada. When the mother of my children made Prada, she's a genius producer. No matter what the reviews say,
it's
they
review
still
proof.
Because people want to see those clothes, man. They want to see the fashion.
They want to see those women 20 years later.
To smell the circus. People think they're actually seeing Michael Jackson. And they're in a movie theater. And then they realize, oh, this is where I get the milk duds and the popcorn. So they're having an experience that is
transformative.
Transformative, well said again, rather than sitting at home and just watching a movie on whatever size screen or not. Because they go to sports, they go to live concerts, because
they want to be
in a communal experience.
And really be part of something.
Right.
Mark Canton, showman, raconteur, brilliant executive and producer, and a mensch on top of it all.
You. I now have the most adorable
Dorothy, your dear Dorothy.
My granddaughter, Lennon.
Her name is Lennon.
Right. They call her Lenny, but I call her Lennon.
And now the new love of your life is, drumroll,
Alexandra Renee Scott Canton. She's just fantastic human and has brought wellness to my being.
Let's have a meal, the four of us.
She's in Costa Rica this week doing wellness while you and I are here trying to figure out how the fuck we get from Burbank to Culver City in 40 minutes.
I love you, Mark Canton.
I love you too.
To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. For more insights into filmmaking, audience testing, and the business of Hollywood, I invite you to check out my books, Audienceology and How to Score in Hollywood, at Amazon, or through my website at KevinGoetz360.com. You can also follow me on my social media. Next time on Don't Kill the Messenger, I'll welcome seasoned entrepreneurs Jeff Anison and Paul Scanlon, founders of Legion M, the world's first fan-owned entertainment company. Until then, I'm Kevin Goetz, and to you, our listeners, I appreciate you being part of the movie-making process. Your opinions matter.